Good to go. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Administrative Services Committee meeting, August 14th, 5 p.m. I need a motion for approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Privilege of the floor. Is there anybody here for the privilege of the floor? Yes.
I just want to take the opportunity to, I think you already know her, but formally introduce Jennifer Swan as the new
Hi.
budget director.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think we've seen her around.
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
You know why she's here at this meeting.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Good. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Additionally, Blaine Erie just started a couple weeks ago, as you may remember from last month's presentation on the fiscal viewer, the director, we built the director of administrative services position. So we heading up that new group that we're pulling all the people in and helping out in a variety of other ways, including the ARPA administrators. So I think we already have been working with them to transition those duties. So
Great. Well, welcome.
probably hear from them in one of your resolutions.
Thank you.
All right. Patrick,
Or one.
you're up. Okay, well.
Sure.
You're in tow.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. We got all the big wigs here.
Oh my goodness, we've got all of them up there.
You chair?
Figure out if I need to sit in between the two of them.
No, you should sit on the end so you can run.
So welcome, distinguished colleagues. I'll read the, first of all, can you introduce yourselves and your positions?
Patrick Slagle, County Attorney.
Jankowski, Director of HR.
Jason Schmidt, District Attorney. Ned Barone, Public Defender.
Okay, good. Good to have you all. I'll read the local law that we're talking about. Local law intro 8-23. A local law amending the local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees. It says attorney positions. Patrick, I think it's your show. Whoever.
Sure.
Whoever.
So circling back to this management salary plan review that we wrapped up in December of 2022, trying to remember what year we're on. So this review is strictly related to county attorneys across the board, countywide. In response to things that are coming down from the state. I want to highlight, we have the 30 department heads who have actively and proactively participated in this process, and we would not have been as quick with a response without their input and support. I'm gonna, whoever wants to speak about what's actually coming down from New York State, and then
Sure.
I can sort of talk about what the county's plan is.
Okay, great.
Across the state, there's an attorney shortage from Chautauqua to Cattaraugus to Allegheny, all the way to St. Lawrence. I just got back from, in May, the meeting of the County Attorney Association, and every county is struggling with hiring attorneys, recruiting, retaining attorneys. Law school classes are lower. It's unknown why, but it's getting harder to find attorneys. Coupled with the fact that New York State has passed legislation that raised the 18 fees, what it calls, what if you're indigent attorney, if you're hired to represent an individual, whether it be criminal family court, the rate went from, I think it was $65 or $70 up to 75 an hour up to 158 an hour. And so now there's more of an appeal, I guess, the state faces as a private attorney in certain fields. I know I've experienced family court and speaking with the family court judges, understanding that they have a huge need for attorneys to take these cases to represent indigent individuals, and there's just not a lot of attorneys to take those cases. And so an individual can easily go out on their own, hang a shingle on their door, and make $158 an hour. We're struggling to compete with that, struggling to recruit and retain attorneys, and so we've come together with an idea of increasing the ranges that we're willing to offer, and hopefully to attract more individuals to county employment. Yes, we struggled, I know, if you've heard, DSS is down attorneys, the county attorney is taking family court cases, assigning my own attorneys over there to cover cases. Just can't find the attorneys, so I know I've struggled, I know both the PD and DH struggle as well, and that speaks to those struggles.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, we've always struggled from a recruiting standpoint in that we've had a number of open attorney positions, and we've tried some creative solutions to that problem that included eliminating a couple of positions and replacing them with paralegal positions, because that gives us more opportunity to draw from the labor force, and we could make effective use of the time. But nevertheless, we still had an attorney shortage, and then we even went after part-time attorneys, which is a practice that the county frowns upon. But that's because we felt that there were people that wanted to maintain their private practice and have another revenue stream together with health benefits that the county can offer and other benefits of county employment. Even there, we can't fill those positions either. So that's the recruitment end of it. On the other side of it, from a retention standpoint, I've had 2 attorneys in the office approach me for raises because they've been, courted by the private sector, different law firms that are also struggling with the same labor shortage. And, you have people that their heart is in, public sector service, but they just can't afford it anymore. So we had to put in for additional raises, and that, created an issue where I think all of our departments were competing with one another. And it got us all sitting down together, recognizing we're essentially recycling our existing attorneys. And I know there's a larger problem that we have to deal with in bringing more people into the county, but meanwhile, there's a need here. So, we can't afford to lose those attorneys that we do have, in addition to which we're trying to recruit.
Yeah, our problem is a little bit different. I think that the public defender's office or indigent providers across the state have really experienced at least the spearhead of the attorney shortage for a couple of reasons. One, we had the indigent legal services grants that really transformed the indigent providers in New York State. So it would take offices that were just pretty much in existence to becoming very effective defense organizations, which meant the growth in the attorney population within that organization. And that happened in every county in the state. So you're looking at 62 counties, and indigent providers or ATD providers just exploded. So we naturally, that created a problem with attorneys, the availability. And secondly, the same as with Jason and Pat, the difficulty was with the ATB. So especially with criminal defense work and family court work. So you had attorneys that were making a minimal amount in assigned counsel fees. All of a sudden, they've expanded those up to over to $150 an hour. And it's a statewide problem. It isn't specific to Chautauqua County. And I can tell you that because of the, I was just at the chief defender meeting in Albany, and it's every county is having a difficult time, because like Pat said, there's a shortage of attorneys. So, but the big problem, I think, is especially, and in all fairness, I can see this with Pat's office. I can't say the same for Jason, because I think it's a little different. It's more like mine. But with Pat's office, we ended up in a competition. And, people were leaving there, coming to my department. I had people in my department go to Pat's. And I don't think it's good for the county. I think that there has to be a camaraderie there, at least to some extent. But the only way perhaps to solve that problem is what Deb's been working on, And I know she's did a great job with those pay grades and getting those kicked up. I think that what that will allow, especially Pat, because we sat down, the three of us, and we looked at it. For the first time, the PDs are somewhat comparative with DAs. But Pat's department especially is really, really below. And I feel sorry for him because he can't compete. And he's gonna have a difficult time. And DSS or whoever else is out there. So, you know, I think Deb's idea is great. And there's other things we've addressed too to try to get people to this county. But the reality is that you have to make it somewhat attractive for these young attorneys or even more experienced attorneys. And I will just say one more thing, that I think what you'll find is, I know that people in my department, if they want to be public defenders, they never used to look at the salaries. It's something that's in your blood or this. You're typically a prosecutor because you want to be a prosecutor. That's where your heart is. Or county law, government law. That's where you would really like to stay if that's where your heart is. But you got to be able to pay everybody. So I think that it's only right that these pay grades, you know, are elevated. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
So what we're proposing, as Pat mentioned, this would be attorney titles countywide, an increase of 3 salary grades. Now, keep in mind, a salary grade increase does not necessarily mean a wage increase for the employees. There's actually only 4 employees who would need an immediate increase to get them up to their new minimum. Total financial impact would be about $29,000. And that would be roughly $6,000 to $14,000 hitting the 3 departments. Now, I don't want to speak for the 3 of them, but, you know, I know that there's been some investigation and, you know, looking at their budgets, and I'm told that they can absorb those changes for the rest of the This, of course, you know, I've been kind of beating the drum of recruitment and retention. This would allow us to recruit and retain. You know, and then any future increases would be within the new salary range for that title and within the approved budget at that point.
So like, I think that we, you know, you've talked about the salary grades before. So in the short run, this year, the difference looks like fairly a small amount or a reasonable amount, let's say this is. But what about, like, have you done long-term projections in terms of what the financial impact on the county is?
No, because anything would be done within their budget. So if it's an approved budget and these, you know, 3 department heads have appropriately budgeted for future increases for countywide attorneys, then whatever that
But that's still it might have an increase to individual budgets, right?
correct, yep.
It should, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what does that look like, really? I guess, you know, we have to go back to our taxpayers and say, you know, I mean, I think you make a very good argument. That's
it. That's contract budget.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, yes, of course, so, you know, in this year's budget, Deb already mentioned that there's, you know, enough savings from other vacancies, so it can be absorbed in this year, but increasing that range doesn't automatically increase the budget for next year.
I
So
understand,
they'll
yeah.
still have to, so when the budget is proposed, they will be proposing whatever salary levels for their position. So during the budget hearings would be the time to discuss those increases, because changes to what is presented as the tentative budget could be made at that time.
So what kind of changes are you talking about?
Well, for example, if they have certain number of positions, or there's the total dollar amount in any department's budget is subject to review and adoption by the legislature during the budget hearing. So there's any changes in terms of wages, benefits, contractual costs are are available to the legislature to make amendments.
So basically you're saying, if I'm hearing
Because
you,
the salary, any salary change wouldn't go beyond what anything might be done during this year. Any future salary changes effective January 1, would be per whatever the adopted budget is.
I think I understand what you're saying. I'm just, so
Excuse
what
me.
you're saying is, okay, what we're really looking at is what's happening now. And then when you look at the money aspect of it next year, you're considering that independently. Like, let's say, because I mean, I think the goal is to hire people that are missing from your departments so that you don't have to send people over to do social
Yeah,
services.
I mean, I'll just speak personally from my department's perspective.
Yeah.
To the extent that Patrick's department can't keep up with contracts or, any number of things that our departments depend on them for, it just holds up everything. I mean, it already takes a couple of months at best to get a contract through. And if half of their staff is helping social services right now, that's just not gonna work. I mean, it's very difficult.
So,
And
It's
so to a certain extent, it's unfortunately the cost of doing business right now. And we'll have to look at the budget as a whole to figure out how we can adapt to those costs.
so, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just in terms of when we'll be coming to confirm you for the budget for 2024, I'm already planning, as Ned said, to get our attorney salaries up to kind of the current point of where the PD and the EA are at. And I think going forward, we're gonna work closely together to make sure that it's not arms race where, I don't raise mine so high that the DA feels he has to raise his, and then the Ned's chasing it, so we're, trying to get them somewhere close. I mean, obviously, they're apples and oranges, what the attorneys do and their hours and tasks, but, I think the goal is to ensure that we're just not having employees chasing after, because, again, if someone wants to do PD work, they're gonna do PD work, or they're gonna do DA work. But it comes to a certain point where there's so much more being offered in another department, individuals have families, they have lives that they like to lead, and so I think the money matters. So the idea is to get us all in the same boat.
Yeah, no, it makes
yeah.
absolute perfect sense. I just, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. I mean, because you're taxpayers too, right, in Chappaqua County? Yeah, and I have I have 3 lawyers in my family, so I pretty much know how that works.
There will be
But-
a cost increase. I think the idea is when you go work for government, you understand you're gonna make a little bit less, but there's health insurance, there's pension there. And I think, we've never tried to, or will ever try to, offer what's being, offered out there in the private attorneys, what they can make. But the idea of the 18B, when I was at 75, that was kind of what we looked at, because that was a good, bellwether, we still made less than that as a government attorney, but that was an understanding that if you're close to that, you're in the ballpark. But once they raised that to 158, I think we saw as government attorneys, I mean, that totally
Yeah.
blows out of the water as to what we're offering. And even when you figure in a pension healthcare, I think individuals say, well, we use the courts and attorneys saying that playing with the calculators all day, they say if you can get 20 hours worth of work and the 18B panel, that's $163,000 a year you can make.
Yeah.
And the judges in the court are saying we can easily give you 20 hours a week of work. So you start looking at that, well, 20 hours, you get to 35 hours, you don't need a government pension or health care because you can afford it yourself at that cost. So, again, we can't offer 158 an hour to government attorneys, but we have to.
Well, our
Gee.
hourly rate's gonna be different, but this is one thing I disagree with a lot of attorneys about this, because I was in that private sector. I did that for a lot of years, and I grinded it out when we were getting $25 an hour for assigned cases. But the fact is that if there's a lot to be said for government employment, whether it's the county attorney, the DA, or the PD. And we've discussed this at the chief defender. There are things, you can pay all you want on the private But let's be honest, you're not going to get those hourly rates. You're not going to be able to churn it out. There's a lot of downside to that private office or a small office. So you want, if the government, we've got it, and there's camaraderie, you've got all the benefits to being in government employment. There's just so many advantages. So I think that if you get the rates of the attorneys up there to compete initially with getting those bodies here, it's a big plus. And I think that most attorneys are willing to give up the potential of making those hours. And I'm not gonna mention names, but I've seen attorneys that are supposedly making all this money privately, but then coming to work for the government. So that tells me
Right.
something's not right there. And I know what it is. I know what it is. It's long hours, busting your ass, doing everything you have to get by. It's chasing the paychecks. It's not as great as it all sounds. So all you have to do, I think, is get those rates up there, make them comparable, give people a reason to come and work for the government, and at least with that initial salary, and you're gonna keep them because of the benefits.
So what I hear is basically all three are in favor of it. I hear from Kitty that we'll not argue, but discuss on another day about the overall budgets.
Any questions?
No.
Any questions?
Good.
All right, thank you very much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Thanks for all the
How you doing there, Mr.
explanations.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to see you. Just leave that there.
Sue, let me know.
Okay, I
Hey,
will,
uh,
thanks.
I thought I was going to say hello.
Oh,
It's
good.
Okay.
Thanks, how are you?
So moving along here, our next local law. People are ready? Number 2, local law intro 9-23, a local law amending local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees regarding the clerk of the legislature and the secretary to the legislature.
Kevin Bukowski, Director of HR. So another proposed local law to change the management salary plan. This one, however, is a little bit different in that we're looking to add 2 positions that are currently graded or classified differently. So the clerk to the legislature is currently a designated flat salary under the management plan. And the secretary to the legislature is a non-graded position under the management plan. When basically a closer look at the research that was done during that management salary plan review at the end of December 2022, and the elected official salary review commission that's currently ongoing shows that we are not competitive in either of these positions across the state. This proposal will move both of the titles to the management salary plan under salary ranges instead of a flat salary or the hourly rate. Of course, again, not only help retain, we want to retain, but in the future, if we need to recruit, we would be in a better position to do so. This would also allow more leeway for management compensation in the future, of course, staying within the approved budget and within that salary range. This proposal, as you'll see, would not take effect until January 1st, 2024. So there is no immediate financial impact. Questions?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. Okay, thank you very much. You're here for a while, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, the proposed resolution. Authorize the settlement of an insurance coverage claim.
Thank you, Patrick Slagle, County Attorney. Back in 2019, New York State enacted the Child Victims Act, which allowed previously claims that were time barred to proceed in regards to abuse within a certain window. Several claims were made against the county. This time there were 3 claims made. And I guess what this boils down to is that going back, we had insurance coverage to cover these type of claims, so should a claim arise. However, going back to the 1960s and trying to find documentation, both on our side and insurance side, as to what was covered, what wasn't covered, what the policy was for. Over years, insurance companies come and go, or merged, or bought out. And so have been in conversations with insurance carrier, and we've come to a settlement where they'll cover a certain dollar amount of claims. We think it's an adequate settlement. It should cover any claims that are against us. And based on documentation that we were able to find, documentation they're able to find, we've had many conversations, and we think it's a good settlement. And I think it says right in here, it's with the Continental Insurance Company. So what this does is authorize us to enter into that settlement agreement to accept those funds into our general fund to pay out any claims, any settlements that may arise under this what's called the CVA, the Child Victims Act.
Any questions?
No.
No. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving along. That's not your country? Okay. Anybody speaking on this? The proposal, amend the budget 2023? I'm not going to sit next year or anything?
Good evening,
Good evening, sir.
Mike Fall, Chief Medical Officer and Interim Public Health Director.
Let me read the proposed resolution. That's your show, okay? Proposed resolution, amend the 2023 budget to implement the IT upgrades for public health project within the Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan, ARPA spending plan.
Well, I first have to compliment the ARPA committee for paying attention to the details and crossing Ts and dotting Is. It is my understanding sometime last year, the department, the health department had submitted an ARPA request in the amount of $110,000, which was approved by the ARPA committee. Subsequently, however, was not sent for resolution to be in front of the legislature. This $110,000 request included things like epidemiology and GIS hardware and software, upgrades to public health databases, epidemiological mapping, things like that. Also included a public health and human services application for $20,000, which was geared more towards what sounded like human services or health, rather DSS applications as opposed to public health. Also some upgrades of Surface Pros and a supply of laptops and internet-equipped smartphones with hotspots. When it became aware to me that this request was sort of sitting in limbo, we, as collectively as the health department, took a look at this and really kind of started questioning a lot of sort of that original request. What we have come up with and proposed is to reduce that ask from $110,000 to the $10,305. As we are sort of reprioritizing things within the health department, rebranding, those other things at this point in time are not as high of a priority for us at this point. But we do require upgrades to some of our mobile Surface Pros in the amount of, and we have an updated 2023 price quote for 6 Surface Pros with chargers, 6 cases, 6 keyboards with stylus, and 6 docking stations for the price of $10,303 and 86 cents. These really are geared more towards field work for a lot of our health staff. We have a number of rabies vaccination clinics, for example. Our mobile health unit is going to require, portable devices to access medical record and that type of thing. The good news is we're able to put, sort of back into, I guess, the ARPA pot, $100,000. So we did not feel it was going to be necessary to pursue those other things. So I guess what we're asking for is the $10,305 for Surface Pro and some IT upgrades.
Wonderful. I applaud you for your.
Your frugality.
Yes. Any questions? Let's get this stuff quick. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Doc. Can you top that, Patrick? All right, number 5, resolution of the county legislature of the county of Chautauqua extending the additional rate of taxes on sales and use tangible personal property and of certain services. Thank you. On occupancy of hotel rooms and on amusement charges pursuant to Article 29 of the tax law of the state of New York.
Patrick Stowe, County Attorney. So this is the third time I've been in front of you with this type of resolution. This is to extend the 1% sales tax, the additional 1% sales tax. The first time I came in front of you was to seek a resolution to request the state authorize continuation. The second time was to support the continuation. The third time now is actually the implementation. This is would be extended as of December 1st, 2023. This resolution actually gets approved by New York State. So I've gone through that process already of working with the attorney from the taxation department in New York State. They reviewed the resolution and they approved it as the form. The idea is that they ask all counties to get this really approved by September so that they have time to go through and process it all. So I come to you, hopefully the last time on this particular issue, is to ask that you support this, and then we'll be able to impose that tax as of December 1st, 2023, or continue it still being imposed, but it expires. So we'd like to continue that 1% sales tax additional.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Nope. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay. Moving along. Number 6, proposed resolution to amend the 2023 budget for the law department.
So this is a request seeking to amend our budget by $48,000. In the course of business, although the county attorney's office and the assistant county attorneys handle the majority of the matters that come before it, we find the need to often seek outside counsel in certain areas if the county's facing lawsuits or need assistance in particular areas that we don't have specialty knowledge in. We'll seek help from outside counsel. We put our RFP seeking help with grants. Oftentimes we have very large grants that have specific requirements, and there's oftentimes a lot of money associated with these grants that really tie up certain attorneys in our office as they pour through hundreds of pages of contracts, grant requirements, specifications, working back and forth. And also just getting those grants often is not something that we do, but to have a law firm that it's specialized to provide that kind of service and not only finding the source of funds, helping to maybe direct those funds to the county, and then working on all the paperwork and the legal needs of acquiring those funds would be, I think, it benefits the county. So we'd be seeking, we part of the RFP, and we had one firm say that this is a service they can offer at a rate of $12,000 a month. And so we're looking to enlist them beginning September 1st for the rest of this year. And I've already put into my budget for 2024 for 1 year. The idea is hopefully by utilizing this firm, we can actually see an increased flow of potential grants to the county. And then again, they'll be able to do all the legal work on those grants. It free up attorneys in office to do other things, other contracts, other coverage in courts, issues of that nature. So it'd be a trial, it'd be something different. Again, we do retain many different law firms. Usually it's a pay as we use them. We'll pay them some type of hourly rate to handle an investigation or a lawsuit. This would be a little different. We're paying actually a flat retainer per month, but we feel that the need is there. We're hoping to see kind of a change. Hopefully there'll be, not just a wash, but there'll be a lot more money flowing because of this.
Do they guarantee anything? Do they actively seek?
No guarantee. That's one thing a lawyer can never do is just give any kind of guarantee. But with their experience, with their knowledge, they're very optimistic that they'll be able to work to know when the money starts to flow, to know what's needed to apply for that. So at the outset, it's an interesting idea. It's very different, but just even working on the sewer projects, I know Kristen Reiner office does an amazing job, but these are projects that are $6 million, $12 million projects that it's a lot for one attorney to handle. We're using a law firm that has several attorneys and staff that can dedicate to that project. I have all the faith in the world in my staff, but also I understand the time that it takes to do that, and want to make sure that we're using expertise where we can use that.
Mr. Chairman, I might add some additional perspective. With the amount of federal infrastructure money that is flowing and will be flowing for several years to come, the grant opportunities are enormous and they are growing day by day. So having a consultant who specializes in finding the grant funds and securing the grant funds could be very advantageous to the county. Now, having said that, my other point of perspective is that it's my understanding that this agreement, although we have high expectations, would be cancelable on a very short notice by the county if we're not pleased with the way it's been proceeding.
Generally 60 days, as long as we put in there that we notify them. If there was some kind of case or issue they're working on, we'd work the way to wrap that up so that the county's protected. But yeah, we would definitely put a cancellation clause in there so that if we don't see it any benefit to the county, we can definitely end that.
Nicely put. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Number 7, you're also
Yes.
adjust the law department's accounts.
So in kind of the shuffle, we've assigned and we have one of our attorneys working over in social services full-time, and the rest of us have taken on those tasks. And so what we decided is we're gonna look to try to get a paralegal that can help backfill some of the work being done. However, in doing so, if everyone's visited the law department, it's a extremely small space and we're kind of out of room. And so what this will do is allow us to enter into agreement to do little work. It's not, an end all solution, but the temporary solution that can basically create us another space to have a paralegal. Redesigns the front of our entrance a little bit too, to make it a little more secure, a little more welcoming and friendly. If someone comes in, they can see someone right away instead of just walking through amongst the various offices. So our proposal is we got a quote, it's $12,737 to have this work done. It's basically, again, just redesigning the front entrance to create another space where we can house a paralegal.
Anybody? All in favor,
Excuse me.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody here for the check on debit? Move over, please. Okay, number 8, setting the salary for the chaplain.
Excuse me.
Jessica Kowalski, Director of HR. So I know, we have used the title of chaplain historically, I believe on just a casual or part-time basis. What the sheriff's office would like to do is, reinstate the title so that it could be used on a part-time basis going forward. Set the salary, at a grade 14, it would be under CSEA 6300 pay scale. But this would allow him to, like I said, utilize the title for, it's $19 per week.
Basically, the cost of living.
Did he consider, was there any consideration for using mental health professionals rather than a chaplain? Because I saw that the definition of what, their job description sounded very much like a counselor.
I'm not sure why the decision was made to go with this title. I think simply because it had been utilized in the past. I think right now, Kitty, are we utilizing this same individual on a voluntary basis?
Yes.
So you're utilizing this individual voluntarily right now?
That is correct. And they also have a subcontractor through the jail who's a chaplain in the jail that helps the incarcerated individuals who are there. This person, I think, would serve sort of a dual purpose between patrol and also the corrections officers, because the corrections officers aren't always comfortable going to the same person that the incarcerated individuals that they deal with are speaking with. So it's sort of a dual purpose, dual role type of thing. But it's essentially, it is a chaplain's position. It's just slightly different focus than the current. So
I personally am very supportive of adding chaplain title, the way it's worded. I think it's a very appropriate move.
Will it come back to us for the number of hours, or are we approving this hours without? It says 19 hours. We're approving the job title.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I guess I really have, I understand what you're saying. I have a little trouble with the decision being made without knowing if, there's a number, without really knowing why this is really needed.
Yep.
And again, it's more about, the economy of it. I understand that there's a real need for support, and I also don't really know why they picked a chaplain rather than a mental health, don't know what other options were explored, so I can't support it at this point.
And I'll just, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm gonna take the recommendations of the sheriff. And then I'll go with that. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
Nay.
Great. Thank you. Moving ahead here. Standard workday and reporting resolution. Did I know that?
I do.
Oh, good.
So this is, of the employees listed in this table. It is setting their standard workday, for the New York State retirement system for their monthly reporting.
Oh, I can't sign.
All right.
I would have almost signed it.
Okay, just pretty much standard.
Standard,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
By saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then the last one, proposed resolution, quick claim deed. We have Kitty.
Kitty Crowe, Director of Finance. The Property Tax Director had a conflict, so couldn't make it, but she is available. If there are any questions, I can message her. But these are the resulting quick claim deeds from the auction.
Again, it's pretty standard for what we've done in the past. I looked at a few of the properties in my district. Anybody have any questions?
It looks like they did.
No, just,
John?
I was pleased with the offer amounts versus the amount owing, so it's good to see.
That's, yeah, I was, John brought that to my attention earlier.
So, I mean, with respect to that, you know, as the current state of affairs in terms of the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year, you know, any surplus amounts will be held in escrow. So, you know, it's good that we got over so we at least we will get the taxes owed at a minimum, so. But any surplus is still kind of in limbo, but we'll be keeping that in escrow.
The surplus though it'll cover the fees and
Yes,
everything, right?
yeah, it's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Thank you, Katie. And is there other?
there is,
There is.
I have to read this.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion under regarding quote, particular person or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. So I'd like to enter into executive session.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'm confident in the work being done currently by our legal and human resources departments, as well as the county executive's office. And as such, I will not be offering a second to this motion.
Chairs. So, fortunately, we cannot go into executive session. Is there anything else? Anybody see that? Other? Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
Covered a lot of ground. Yeah.